Yo, what is going on? Cash Media back at it again. Once again, I'm back, man. Um, yeah, man. First weekend down with the NBA playoffs, right? We got them first game ones out the way, right? So we got to see, we got to, dab into, what's going on. Sorry, I'm just trying to fix up my green screen real quick. Sorry about that, guys. Trying to fix this bad boy. Oh, okay. All right. But yeah, so we got them game ones out the way, right? We got to see a lot of good matchups. Honestly, it was a very good weekend when it came to, these games, man. There was a lot going down. We got to see some really, really, really good games. Um, and we even got to see some upsets, to say the least. There was only one blowout, if I'm not mistaken. But I think the only team to have won at home were the only two teams to have won at home during the weekend was the Kings and the Nuggets, right? Um, I predicted the Kings to get this first game, just kind of, set the tone as, the better team per se, or if you count seeding, right? And then, I kind of seen that coming. I seen De'Aaron Fox kind of doing this thing. I mean, for you to probably be the first clutch player in NBA history, right? Be the first player to receive this award. That's a I look at it as a big thing, and I think we're starting to really see De'Aaron Fox for what he is on a national level, right? Not a lot of people are really paying attention to Sacramento King games per se, but I've been keeping up with them. I know De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis didn't have a great game yesterday though. I think he was what five for 17 or something like that. I think he only made like five shots yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, or the 15th. Sorry, the day before. So it was on Saturday. Yeah, right. He didn't play that game, or they didn't play that game. But yeah, he scored. Let me drop it right there. Yeah, actually, let me even pull it up for you guys. Also, man, if anybody wants to tap in, of course, you can hop in through the chat. Right? Okay, so let me pull this up. All right, so here it is, man. So De'Aaron Fox basically had like a 40-point game. I was watching this game. I was watching all the games. But De'Aaron Fox was cutting through, slashing. I mean, he was also 50% from three, also, right? So he was knocking him up. He was knocking him down from all levels, right? Making most of his free throws. Missing four though, even having three steals at that, right? Keegan Murray didn't have a great game. Harrison Barnes didn't have a great game, but put up what he could. Kevin Herter didn't have a great game neither. Malik Monk, right? A former teammate, or I would say the teammate of De'Aaron Fox, who played together with him in college, right? They linked back up. People thought the whole move with Malik Monk leaving the Lakers and going to the Sacramento Kings. Some people thought, the Lakers messed up and not trying to pursue him back or trying to get him back. But clearly, it worked out for the better. And we're starting to see, or get a real analysis of how the Kings have been looking for a better part of the year and how everything has just meshed together, right? For making the trade for Sabonis, giving away Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, you could see how it wasn't going to work with De'Aaron Fox being the primary ball handler, and Sabonis leading the league this year in rebounds. He didn't have a great game, like I said, but still, they still managed to come out, get the win. And a big and large part of that is because of De'Aaron Fox. He's not called the clutch. He wasn't he wasn't on the forefront for the Clutch Player Award, for no reason, right? He was on there for a very, very good reason. When it pertains to just how he's been playing, man, he's been lighting it up. I'm kind of shocked that um, he wasn't really getting any sort of higher recognition, I may say. I mean, we've seen that Sabonis was even his name was up there in terms of top five for for the MVP votes, for the MVP rankings, the MVP ladder, and I thought that was a little different. Not to say that he obviously he's been playing well, he's been playing phenomenal, just like for a better part of the Kings team. But I think at the end of the day, this Kings team, is led by De'Aaron Fox, right? We've seen it, we're starting to see it, and now we're just really opening our eyes up here a bit. So it's a very interesting series, right? With the Warriors though, Warriors. Andrew Wiggins finally came back. He hadn't played in a long time. He was having some personal issues, some family issues, apparently. We don't know, but that's not for me to talk about. I don't really care about all the other stuff that was going on, at least not right now, right? But Curry had a decent enough day. He was 11 for 20 from the field, right? But he had five turnovers. Klay Thompson even had an all right day, but in terms of the box office. But honestly, I mean, he wasn't knocking down them shots that needed to be knocked down, right? Poole was okay, but he didn't shoot too. He didn't shoot. He was all right. He was all right in my opinion. More or less, right? I mean, Malik Monk was out pooling Poole. That's one of the bigger stories, at least from that game one, was Malik Monk put up 30 points in that game, right? You coming off the bench, uh, especially in the playoffs, man. All this stuff, all these small intricate things, they add up when you're talking about like rebounds, team that usually out rebounds the other team usually, wins the game. And then if you're factoring in second chance points, fast break points, points off turnovers, points in the paint, points off the bench, all these things play into, how this thing all works out at the end of the day. So a lot of these things have to be factored in, especially when you're doing your analysis on the breakdown of the game and just understanding like Warriors did have an opportunity to win. It was back and forth for a better part of the game, but at the end of the day, the Warriors issues on the road, still having trouble to defend on the road, it shined the light once again, right? It did go to did it go to overtime? Did it? I don't even remember. No, I don't think it did. I don't think it did. I think I'm wrong for that. Right? So but yeah, and look at this. 60 to 44 points in the paint compared to to the Warriors and the Kings, right? And this is Sabonis not having a great game. Just imagine if Sabonis had played a lot better. Just imagine, what his numbers what this game would have actually looked like, if Sabonis actually had been knocking down his shots. But to say the least, and I also want to talk about Wiggins though too, because he came back, right? Like I stated before, this was his first game in months, right? He hadn't played such a long time, but honestly, it didn't even look like he lost the beat. It looked like Andrew Wiggins, kind of just starting off, coming back from where he left off. In all honesty, when it comes to being in championship form. Now he just had a good 17 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. Right? He didn't shoot that well from three, but he was still like seven for 16. A lot of those honestly, a lot of those misses were later in the game. In the beginning, more or less in the first half and part of the third quarter. Each team was going back and forth. It was really going to come down to the wire. But at the end of the day, Sacramento Kings have one of the best offenses in the league, right? And we've seen that on display. Warriors are iffy when it comes to defending on the road. So, it is what it is, right? But at the end of the day, I still have the Warriors to still win this series, probably in 6 or 7 games, though. Probably in 6 or 7 games. It really depends on how the Warriors are going to come out today in Game 2 in Sacramento. But you know for a fact that this is a must win. Game 2 is always a must win when you lose the first game, but it's not over though. They can still be up. They can still be down 0-2, or they can still be down 0-2, come back home, right? Win those 2 games, and then it's easily tied up, right? But we already know the series doesn't shift. The series doesn't shift until a home team loses, right? So that's really what it is right there. And that really sums it up right there. So we're gonna have to wait and see. Today, I'm not gonna lie to you, I got the Warriors winning today. I would say they win within six or better. I think that's good enough. It's a pretty fair analysis, right? Let me turn this up. Test. All right. So on to the next. All right. So let's knock out some things. Let's talk about one of the biggest things from this weekend, and one of the things that I definitely want to talk about, right, is the LA Lakers, right? LA Lakers, man, they was doing their thing, man. I said Lakers have a chance to beat the Grizzlies, right? I said they were going to beat the Grizzlies in 6 games. And there's numerous reasons why I chose the Lakers to win this game. First off, one, Lakers have a lot of momentum. They've been playing. They've been playing very well together since the All-Star break. They've been one of the best defensive teams in the league since the All-Star break. They have one of the best records in the league since the All-Star break, right? And a part of that, they were doing it without LeBron James, and in some of those games, in some of those instances, without Anthony Davis. But they've had Anthony Davis through most of that sting, especially during the second half of the season, even though Anthony Davis was going in and out of games, right? So my thing here was, in my analysis on why I thought the Lakers were going to beat the Grizzlies. Now, to be fair, I did not know they were going to beat the Grizzlies, in Game 1 at home. I'm not going to give myself that much credit. So I did not predict them to beat the Grizzlies at home. I did predict it. I did predict it to be competitive, but I didn't know, Lakers were going to come out and as a team, man, it's just, they were looking really, really good. Now, there were a lot of turnovers in this game. There were a lot of mistakes that were made on both sides. This game really could have went either way. Lakers won, Grizzlies could have won, right? One of the biggest things that played into this whole situation with the Grizzlies is, right, Ja Morant, right? He got hurt. He came down on a hard fall. I believe I forgot who was under the rim. Somebody was trying to, get the charge, and Ja Morant was trying to protect himself on that impact fall. He was trying to protect himself on trying to brace for the impact, but that hand injury, was looking tight. It was looking pretty crazy. How his hand and his wrist was all looking when he landed. And then you can even see right there that, Ja Morant spoke up on it. He said, yeah, the pain level was about a 10. He said he hasn't been using it. So, and if you're familiar with Ja Morant's game, you already know that Ja Morant is not particularly a 3-point shooter. That's not his specialty. It's more or less slashing, getting to the rim, dunking the ball, right? Especially when you're dunking the ball, that's extremely important to have, to have your hands. You can't yam it the way you would want to, or the way you think you can, right? So that's going to play a huge part into the Grizzlies. And honestly, the reason why I said the Lakers were going to beat the Grizzlies in this series is because they don't have Brandon Clark and Steven Adams. That's a very, very big that's a big shift, in this series. People might not look at it, people might just, hear and see names. And I was talking to my guy Josh, the other day, and he was boasting up Dylan Brooks. But I don't know why the hell you're boasting up Dylan Brooks. He has nothing to freaking show for it. Dylan Brooks has nothing to to commend his NBA career. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say like he's straight dog shit. I'm not trying to come for Buddy like that. But to be talking him up like he's like a force in the league. Like, bro, he's no different than any other average NBA player. He just talks a lot. But he might be a great teammate. He might be the tone setter. And for all we know, he could be at least the second best defender on that team. He's definitely not the first best because I would probably give it to Jaren Jackson Jr., who's more than likely going to be Defensive Player of the Year. But with that being said, though, yeah, I just think that the Lakers have the personnel and they have the matchups to counteract this Grizzlies team. People were kind of looking at John Moran, seeing how fast he was, and he kind of his game in a way is his slashing to the rim is almost similar to De'Aaron Fox's speed. Now he doesn't finish like De'Aaron Fox, and De'Aaron Fox doesn't finish like John Moran, but they can both equally get to the rim just as quickly as they can lay the ball up or dunk it, right? But with that being said, right, when you don't have Steven Adams, when you don't have your depth in Brandon Clark, I feel like this is a lot of responsibility for Jaren Jackson Jr. To take on Anthony Davis or anybody else who's coming to the rim. So they're limited. They're limited on rim protectors, right? And then you got to think about the games that's being played, the personnel, right? LeBron James is a guy. He's famously known for finishing at the rim. Anthony Davis can finish at the rim, right? You have a bunch of guys who can finish at the rim, right? Even Austin Reeves is coming up into his own and becoming a star at that, right? Austin Reeves, man. And you know what? I'm not even going to sit here and make it seem like it's unbelievable because I believe, it was gradually working towards this direction. It was just, Austin Reeves was just slowly, gradually working towards this direction. And honestly, everything seemed to work out for the best. LeBron just likes playing with, he loves playing with white guys, right? No racial business here. It's just how I see it. He has great chemistry with white players. With certain white players. Look at Alex Caruso. Look what he did with Alex Caruso, right? But that's not how I evaluate the game though. So just to be clear, I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form with any racial bias, but at the end of the day, Austin Reeves can ball. Bottom line, Austin Reeves can ball. He can ball the hell out, right? And at the end of the day, and it wasn't just Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, came out looking crazy, knocking down, looking like Kobe out there, looking like a baby LeBron, knocking down these mid-range shots, watering them. Like if you can make a very valid opinion if Rui Hachimura didn't come into this game and did what he did, Lakers wouldn't have won this game, right? Because it was very close. It really came down to the wire, but then Austin Reeves went on a 9-0 run late in the fourth quarter, talking about he's him, right? And that sealed it off. That sealed it off, man. So depending on how the situation goes with John Morant, and whether John Morant will be able to play the second game, but even with John Morant playing in the second game, I just don't believe in this Grizzlies team enough. I mean, they're lacking, their defensive anchors on their team. Jaren Jackson Jr., even though I think he's a really great player, I feel like he has way too much responsibility on his plate, especially with John Morant out. He would more than likely have to be either the number one or the number two option for this team. And then while also trying to protect the paint, from LeBron James and Anthony Davis and whoever else is going to be coming to the rim. So that's a huge responsibility, man. So in itself, he's really going to be playing like the traditional five position, to be able to score and defend on both sides of the floor. So it's a tough matchup for the Grizzlies, especially in the first round at that. Because you're the second. You came in on back-to-back 50-game win seasons, but now you're in a situation where there was a lot of things going on behind closed doors. I don't want to have to elaborate on that. I don't think I have to, right? But the Grizzlies do have a player in Tyus Jones, right? He's not a bad player. He's a very good player. During the time frame when John Moran was out, he was definitely filling in that role, right, for John Moran. So I don't think this team is going to look worse, but they're definitely not getting any better with John Morant out of the lineup. So we're gonna have to see next time the Lakers play is going to be on Wednesday. So we're gonna have to see, what comes of that. Right. Next thing now is right the Bucks and the Heat. Right, the Bucks and Heat was also a really good game. Another game that I love to watch yesterday. Let's see, let me pull up some stats. Right, and Jimmy Butler came out, doing his thing, man. Sadly enough, Giannis Antetokounmpo got hurt. He got hurt during that game in the first quarter, and you can see it right there where he landed on his backside. Apparently, there was a back contusion, so he had to leave that game, right? And I, for one, man, I don't like seeing all the playoff injuries, man. I think it takes away from the game. I like seeing superstars play. Like it especially in the NBA, man. It's not about next man up, especially when it comes to superstars. And I'm quoting here, right? But yeah, it doesn't work like that, especially in the NBA. You gotta have somebody like Giannis. There's no replacing somebody like Giannis. You gotta have him in the lineup. But Bucks are still a really good team without Giannis. They've managed to stay afloat for a better part of the season. Well, not better part of the season because Giannis still played most of the season. But in times where he wasn't playing, they definitely came up. Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton had over 30 points in that game. But Miami Heat were just they were on a tear this game, right? Miami Heat, very outlier game. Even though Jimmy Butler was having a phenomenal game, which honestly, that's probably the only predictable thing that you could say about the Miami Heat. Other than that, I don't know how much they're going to score. I don't know how efficient they're going to be coming into the night. But they were making damn near 60% from the floor on both field goals and 3-pointers, right? So Miami definitely capitalized on the situation with with Giannis being out. But with that being said, Milwaukee Bucks, they were still trying to inch the game closer. They weren't trying to let this one get past them. But late in the game, things just didn't work out in the Bucks' favor. So now, they have a little bit of time, I believe. And I think the next time they play is going to be Wednesday, right? So Giannis does have some time to get back, get back into shape and get healthy. Also, glad it's just in the first round, and then these players have some time in between to get back into stride. So that's what I'm more so concerned about. As long as Giannis is back, apparently, they're saying that he should be available on Wednesday. He's probably in a pot or something, trying to get trying to see that LeBron doctor. So try to see the same doctor that LeBron went to come back for this game, man. So we already know Greek freak is a freak when it comes down to getting back on the court. All right. And then even with points in the paint, though, man, you see that's how this was a huge game changer, because if you're talking about points in the paint, right? Miami Heat had 62 compared to the Bucks 46. With Giannis not being in that game, you already know damn good and well that points in the paint would at least be around that 62 number, right? So that in itself, man, we gotta really look at this, man, and game by game. I look at all this stuff game by game, though, game by game. I don't try to judge too much. I try to judge off the last performance I've seen, and I try to leave it at that. But nonetheless, man, it was still, a good game. And I just, I'll leave this game at that. I'll leave it at that, because I think the next one is going to be a little bit more interesting, especially since Giannis came down. I already kind of seen Miami kind of taking this one home. But good win. Hey, playoff Jimmy, you can't don't count him out just yet. That man will be fighting. That man will be fighting to the last dollar. um, Also, honestly, I'm not really going to talk about this Celtics in Hawks game. Honestly, I mean that was essentially a blowout. Next game, maybe I'll talk about it, but I don't want to talk about that game. To be honest, unless I had somebody on here to kind of talk about it with me. But yeah, man. So I know this was probably the game of the weekend. I don't know if you guys thought so. Honestly, it's hard for me to say which game was really the game of the weekend, right? Like which game really stood out the most. It could have been Clippers, it could have been Suns, it could have been Lakers and Grizzlies, it could have been Warriors and Kings. I mean, we don't know. You know, we I mean, it's not that we don't know, but really it's your opinion. It really just depends on which game you found more entertaining. But definitely Clippers and Suns was for a fact one of the most entertaining games to watch this weekend. I mean, it was a lot of back and forth. You know, the Clippers were up in that first quarter 30 to 18, right? 30 to 18. And then even leaving Kevin Durant scoreless in that first quarter, right? The Clippers, Tyronn Lue had decided to put Russell Westbrook on Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant didn't score a single point in the first quarter, right? And then and then Kawhi Leonard in this game, showing why he was a two-time Finals MVP, right? Going up against Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns, and without Paul George at that, putting up 38 points, shooting 54% from the field and 90% from free throw, right? So it was a really good back and forth game. It was a really good back and forth game. I know you guys can attest to this, right? But Russell Westbrook didn't even have a great shooting night, right? He was 3 for 19 from the field, right? He was 1 for 6 from 3 point. I mean, it's really not surprising when you look at those numbers. But fact of the matter is, Tyronn Lue, in Russell Westbrook's words, he believed in him. He believed in Westbrook to come up to make plays, uh, make plays in other areas, right? Particularly defense, right? Having the 10 rebounds. We already know Westbrook is one of the best rebounding point guards, rebounding guards probably of all time. Low key, 8 assists, right? Getting those 8 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. Like he was quite literally, hawking out there on defense. You know what? And I got to give Russell Westbrook a lot of credit here. I have to give him a lot of credit here because for him to have the ability to, not let his shooting kind of cloud his judgment or, kind of get in his head, but still make up for in other areas, and I think this is a very big, this is I think Tyronn Lue deserves credit for kind of putting Russell Westbrook in this situation for him to succeed. And honestly, this is the same thing that Russell Westbrook should have been doing on the Lakers. You know what I mean? I mean, besides the whole shooting thing, Russell Westbrook could have been doing the same exact thing on the Lakers, defending, ball hawking, right? Playing off ball, right? Some of those, I mean, hey, maybe some of those field goals, didn't need to go up. Maybe he can try to, feel somebody out, get an open look, maybe try to get somebody to sag off their guy and pass it off to the other guy. But hey, at the end of the day, Clippers got the win. That's what's most important. Clippers got the win, and I think that's a testament to Westbrook, Gordon, who because he played well in the first quarter. I think he had like 12 points, right, in just that first quarter, and then Kawhi Leonard obviously just being money for a better part of the game, 38 points. So Kawhi Leonard was definitely in playoff mode. He wasn't trying to mess around. He knew good and full on that he was going to be going up another two-time Finals MVP and League MVP in Kevin Durant, right? So he knew he was going to have to put up at least 30 points or more in this game, especially when you don't have Paul George in your lineup, right? So we did say the Clippers are one of the teams to or they were preseason favorites to go to the NBA Finals. They were one of the teams that that were being looked at as heavy favorites. Now they're not going to have Paul George for a better part of this first round. I highly doubt if they even. I highly doubt if he even plays this first round. I mean, if it goes to 7, maybe 6, maybe he can come back then. But honestly, I wouldn't try to rush it. I would, if you're the Clippers, do the best you can to try to get past the situation. Because I mean, they have the matchup. They have the personnel to match this team, right? They have the personnel to match his team, and even with the Suns, right? Kevin Durant played, I would say, in his defense, I mean, he played okay. My problem is, Kevin Durant, sometimes he could be a little timid or, not really be shooting the ball as much as he should have, trying to get other guys involved, trying to get other guys, to blossom and, play their game also. But at the end of the day, man, if you're Kevin Durant, you got to capitalize on the opportunity and shoot the shots that you know that you can make, especially in crunch situations. Now, I'm not talking about situations where he's looking, he has the ball and then he finds a good look and then gives up a shot in exchange. Sometimes, I mean, we got to see that Kevin Durant that's been aggressive. That player, that was a two-time Finals MVP, that sort of assertiveness, right? They brought you here to be the difference maker, right? Now we know it's just one game, so I'm not beating Kevin Durant up here a bit, because I do want the Phoenix Suns and Kevin Durant to be competing for an NBA Finals championship. But at the end of the day, man, it's gonna take Kevin Durant, to be taking at least 20 shots in this game. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant need to be taking at least 20 shots each in this game, right? I mean, Devin Booker played all right. He was 10 for 19, but he was 0 for 3 from the three, right? So that in itself, could have been a difference maker if he had made those 2 threes or 2 out of those threes. Obviously they would have won the game, right? But when it comes to 3-point percentage, the Suns were just not hitting on the money. They were 31%. Clippers weren't neither. They were 32%. Free throws were pretty much the same. Offensive rebounds, the Clippers were killing them on that end, right? Right. Zubac had 15 boards. I think he had like double-digit rebounds by halftime at that, right? So that in itself, remember what I said in the beginning of the video, teams that usually get that kill the boards usually wins the game, right? So, but for the most part, I mean, this game was pretty much even in every other category. Points off turnovers, those Suns had like 15 points off turnovers. So that is what brought them back into the game because they were down early on, and I think they came back middle of the third quarter. So this is definitely one of the best series in the first round. Definitely a game we got to keep our eyes on, and I will definitely be looking very, very closely at this next game because you already know the Suns now. This situation has become a must-win situation for the Phoenix Suns, and I'm all about those. I'm all about those must-win situations because you already know the dogs are gonna have to come out, right? The dogs are gonna have to come out. They're gonna have to do their thing, and they're gonna have to capitalize on this situation because this is their second game at home, and then they're gonna have to go to LA and then compete there. So I'm pretty sure they're not gonna want to be 0-2 and then heading back, to Los Angeles because that will be a very bad look in this situation, especially losing 2 games at home at that, right? So now, probably the last one that I'm going to be talking about now is, the Knicks and the Cavaliers, right? This is one of the series that I think that was very highly anticipated during the season. I think we've seen this matchup for a better part of the year. I think this was highly anticipated, right? Now, to be fair, I think I did say that the Cavs would beat the Knicks in this situation. Now, I don't feel too confident in my pick, to be honest with you. I think Knicks are just a very good all-around team, man. Now that I'm really looking at it, it's not just because of Jalen Brunson. It's in RJ Barrett didn't even have a great game. At that. But it's when it comes down to what it comes down to is just I think the Knicks personnel kind of mesh better than Cleveland Cavaliers for a team that kind of just got together in a sense, right? I mean, I understand, each team got their new superstar, Donovan Mitchell, on one end, and then Jalen Brunson on another end. But one guy gave you 27, the other guy gave you 38. But which guy won the game, right? Jalen Brunson, right? And it is in a big part of that is because he scored when the opportunity needed to set in, and also, the Knicks, right? They can also defend, right? They're a very good defending team. So, I mean, both teams weren't shooting. They weren't necessarily shooting great from the field. I mean, both teams were shooting in the low 40%. When it comes to threes, the Knicks are shooting 20. You're talking about 27% from three for the Knicks, 32% from the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, this was a pretty physical back and forth game. Knicks had a lot of second chance points. They had 16 more points off turnovers. They've even led the game by as large as 12 points. Cavs only led the game by 2 points in that game. So you could see it's lopsided in some areas, but it's also, they're also going back and forth. I mean, you would have to watch the game. You would have had to watch the game to kind of see where I'm coming from, because it's not like for the most part in this game, it's not like they were just knocking the Cavs out the water. And Darius Garland didn't have an eye-popping game. Didn't really do much from the field, even though he played 43 minutes, 17 points, 1 assist, no rebounds. You got to do more than that. Even though he had 4 steals, he has to give more than that. Donovan Mitchell can't be, the only motor for this team in order for them to win games. And look how close it was. Look how close it was. Evan Mobley had a horrendous game that game, right? He was 4 for 13. Right. And obviously, he doesn't shoot threes, but he was 4 for 13, only 8 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 assists. Now, the rebounds, okay, but them points, that 4 for 13, that's a big difference, right? If you would have made at least, I'll say, 4 more of your shots, you would have won the game. You would have won the game. So, you got to look at that and start to assess yourself and just look forward from that situation. And then also, the Cleveland Cavaliers bench, they really didn't give too much. I mean, they only had 14. They only had 14 points from their bench. So that in itself, man. And he had Josh Hart come off the bench for the Knicks and give you 17. Right? Quickly didn't have a great game. Hartenstein didn't have a great, had an all right game. Coming off the bench, Obi Toppin giving off a good 9 points. Those still provide value. R.J. Barrett was 2 for 12 from the game, 1 for 5, but he was negative 13 on the floor. And then even with Julius Randle, that was his first game back after his ankle injury. He scored 19 points, 10 rebounds. He was 30% from three, in a little less than half, less than 50% when it comes to field goals. But this is not a series. This is not a series that I'm going to look at. Let me see. Sorry about that, guys. But this is not a series. Cavs and Knicks are not a series that I look at, and I'm going to be looking at percentages, field goals, because this is the playoffs, man. At the end of the day, you got to look at how this stuff is broken down. By the final buzzer, you gotta look at all these little knick-knack things when it comes to how a team found their way to win. Sometimes a team's gonna win ugly, sometimes a team's gonna lose horrendously, right? And then everything else that factors in between. So yeah, man, all that regular season stuff that people usually talk about when he shot this game, this and that game, this and this. Like, come on, man, I'm not worried about none of that right now. If you lose one game, just come back, do better the next. That's all you can do as a team, and that's all you can do as a player. So that Nuggets in Timberwolves game, honestly, I'm not even going to talk about that, man. That game was nonsense. I stopped watching that game by the time it was they were up by 20-something points. Karl Anthony Towns had a joke of a game. It's not even worth mentioning. to be honest with you. And I'm just kind of leave it at that, man. It just wasn't impressive. I'm gonna just leave it at that. Nothing to really talk about there. In that in that zone, right? So, but it was definitely a great weekend, right? It was a great weekend for basketball. Definitely looking forward to tonight's games, right? I'm definitely looking forward to tonight's games. You know what? Let's talk about it right now. So we got Brooklyn in 76ers, uh, and then Warriors and Kings. I know I didn't talk about 76ers uh, during the video, but you know, 76ers, man, I mean, they won that game. Let's just say, I'm not really looking at that series and I'm anticipating anything different from happening. Honestly, James Harden, I think the 76ers were shooting lights out in that first game. James Harden was knocking down threes like there was no tomorrow. And honestly, he did his thing. He did his thing. I think I was saying in my Discord, hey, you guys have to I think this is a series for James Harden, especially going against his old team, and with the competition that's going to be set forth before them. James Harden is going to have to come up later in these series. I know Joel Embiid is going to take on a load of the defensive attention, I may say. And then obviously, we got Maxi. The 76ers do have a good team. So don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to just pin everything on Harden, but you guys you just have to see where I'm coming from when I'm talking about like this basically where I'm coming from is that James Harden just needs to kind of fill in that void when everything is pushed up against the wall. Because I could see if I'm an opposing team, right? I'll stop Embiid, right? I'll focus on Embiid. Maybe just cause I don't want Maxi to start going off, I'll even make sure that Maxi is being tagged up, right? Now that's going to leave James Harden, right? The playmaker and the former league MVP, and I believe three-time leading scorer, leading scorer, right? So you got to test them. I feel like some teams are going to test him, man. There's some teams are going to leave James Harden wide open. They're going to try to dare him to take certain shots, to be aggressive. I mean, maybe not as an opposing coach, I wouldn't dare James Harden to be not, to be doing his thing. But fact of the matter is, my point is, this series, right, should be a James Harden series just to set the tone, right, for the later rounds. Because we know Embiid could kill the Nets, right? That's not something to even question. We know Joel Embiid is going to do his thing. Joel Embiid is going to put up numbers as usual. But like I said, he's going to take on much of the defensive attention from the Nets. They're not trying to let Joel Embiid go off, which was the reason why James Harden was able to get so many open threes. Some of them was in some people's faces, not to mention he did cross somebody up and knock the tray in their grill. I believe it was Spencer Dinwiddie. He crossed his ass up and then made the three. But here's my thing, and this is coming straight from me. I didn't get this from anywhere else. Not ESPN, not First Take. James Harden has to be. I want James Harden to be the leading scorer of this series because this will be the tone setter for the series coming up. Because it's only going to get harder when you're going against other teams, right? When we're talking about Bucks, Celtics, right? Even Heat, right? Even who else? I mean, those are shit. You could even throw Cavs and Knicks out there, right? Even though I don't think they'll beat them, but they'll. But when it comes to the backcourt defending, perimeter defending, a lot of those teams they can defend on the perimeter, and you best well believe you could a lot of teams probably feel like, some of those top teams probably feel like they know they can lock James Harden up. They can get him to question his shot selection at that, right? But here or there, I'm still going to say the Sixers beat the Nets, and you know what? I'll give it within 7. I say 76ers beat the Nets within 7, and then the Warriors beat the Kings within 6. Right, so that's my predictions uh, for this first for the game twos of round 1. Right, so I'm glad you guys watched the video, watched my whole little spiel. Like I said, remember, this is a debate platform, debate reaction, whatever. Right, so I always drop the link in the comment section. So for any of you guys want to tap in, talk basketball, even leave some comments here and there, so we can have a legit debate or conversation. But like and subscribe, hit that bell, that notification button, so whenever I go live, you guys can always tap in and hear what I have to say. But most importantly, man, I'm gonna start getting some things repped up, man. I know I've been saying this for a very, very long time, though, man. But hey, just know, man, I'm admin. I'm the talent. I'm the producer. I'm the director. So anybody that knows, man, knows. So I'm working on it soon. I'm gonna have my Discord finally up and running. I do have my own Discord, but I'm making a new server. Um, that's going to be it's going to look a lot better. It's going to, all the intangibles are going to be there. Yeah, man. So you can see that I'm working towards some things, but slowly but surely, things will work out in the way it's supposed to be. All right. So thank you guys for tuning in. This is Cash Media. Appreciate you guys for watching yet another video of me just kind of going, talking to myself. But you know what? Then again, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I appreciate anybody who watches this. I appreciate anybody who likes the video. I appreciate anybody for commenting. Just have a great day, man. That's all I can ask for. If you guys are watching this, just have a great day. And stay strong. That's all I can say. I think that's the that's the best thing I can say right now. So thank you guys for watching. I'll tap in with you guys later and have a wonderful day.